Welcome. If you're watching the recording, check the timestamps to see when we actually start, which will be in approximately 5 to 7 minutes from now. Until then, I'm going to hang out and let some folks join us live. Welcome, Claire. Welcome, Tom. Welcome, Nancy. Welcome, Hope. Welcome, Vanessa. Welcome, Sean. Welcome, Nicole. I am so excited about doing this session. Oh my gosh. So excited to be alive right now. There's so much to be discovered. There's so much to see. And it's to see the same thing over and over and over again. But that same thing is extraordinary. I think I want to do a different color. There we go. Because I'm changing the light. There's the button I press. And it cycles through different colors. Oh, so yummy. I really hope that I'm able to communicate what's on my heart today. Because it's there, I see it, it's obvious, it's clear. But sometimes finding the words, my goodness. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing. Automatic, no, we're not going to do that this time. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Okay, we'll just leave it right there. My goodness. Welcome, Tara. Congrats on being here for your first time. To episode 61. Okay. I think I want to move this down just a little bit. Yeah. Gosh. Oh my gosh. You know what I wish? I wish that I could just show you the inside of my heart. I wish I could just open it and allow you to see what it sees. Maybe that would be easier because then I don't have to use these silly words. All right, we ready? Let's do this. Welcome to the program. This is Holding Space for Love to be Seen. My name's Tiger. I'll be your gentle guide as we hang out for a little while. I am broadcasting live. There's folks joining from all around. And this seems to be a weekly show where I first write the Monday Insight Letter, where I talk about the topic in a much more structured format. And then the next day, on Tuesday, today, I do a live video on the topic. And sometimes I follow the format of what I wrote. And then sometimes, like today, I'm not even going to look at what I wrote, and I'm just going to speak freely because I have a lot on my heart about this topic and a lot to say, and I'm just going to see what comes out. Because quite honestly, this subject, the title today, How to Give Yourself to God, it really feels like we could hang out for 2 weeks and talk about only this and have our mind blown and our heart opened over and over and over again. So let's dive into it. I'll run my mouth for a little while, approximately 30, 40 minutes. And then for those who are joining us live, we can do some Q and R, questions and reflections. And then we will wrap up with a short and sweet guided meditation, which is usually how this thing ends. Not all the time, but most of the time. So we'll plan on it. Welcome to the show. Okay. First of all, I'm just excited that you're here with me. Can I just say thank you? I feel so blessed that I have this opportunity to reflect on these topics throughout the week in somewhat of a preparation for sharing with you, which means I really get to just dive into my own experience and ask myself, what's really true here? What's really going on? Like beyond my fantasy, beyond what I think I want, beyond what I hope, what's actually real and true? What's actually valuable? And that adds immense value to my life. The topic today, how to give yourself back to God. Now, right off the bat, we have to bring some playfulness and some softness to using this word God. Because when I say that word, everyone hears something different. And I'm not saying it with any sort of ideological flavor. I'm using this word as a representation in the same way that I feel it's been used originally, which is to speak about that which is real and true. To speak about the underlying force that holds it all together. And we're going to call that force God. But more importantly, what this is really about is giving yourself back to yourself. Giving yourself back to what is real and true about you rather than feeling like you're pulled in 10,000 different directions and you don't know if those directions are even your directions. You don't know if what you want is even really what you want. And we find a gentle simplicity of just being still and realizing that all is well, and you can trust the moment at hand. You can trust what's real and true. I'm not saying trust how you feel. I'm not saying trust your emotions. I'm not saying trust your thoughts and your ideas and your opinions. I'm speaking to trusting something that is unquestionably real beyond all of the mind's noise. And maybe that's a good place to go into, because this also points to the premise of what I'm constantly talking about, which is what I feel is the primary opportunity of spirituality beyond the woo-woo, beyond the hyperbole. But the original invitation of spirituality is to discern the difference between what you imagine to be happening and what's really happening. Because the problematic experience for being human, and if spirituality is offering some sort of solution to the suffering of being human, then the invitation is to see that the problem doesn't arise in life. The problem doesn't arrive in the ways that form takes shape, in the way that energy dances. The problem arises in us getting lost in our dream about life, getting lost in our dream about ourselves. We're getting lost in mental content, confusing mental content with reality. And just as a playful invitation, maybe we can just acknowledge this. If we look at all of the agitation we experience, the fears we experience, the suffering we experience, and we can ask ourselves, is this responding to what is? Or is this responding to what I think about what is? Is this responding to the intimacy of here and now? Or is this responding to what I think is my life, past and future? Is this responding to what I think I have and what I think I don't have? What I think something means, what I think it doesn't mean? Is suffering responding to reality? Or is it responding to your dream of reality? And this is the doorway that spirituality provides, which is ultimately an invitation, which is becoming my new motto. Be still, open up, fear less, and love more. Let me just say something about that. I love the simplicity here. And my God, just on this alone, we could just do the whole show. If you're going to figure out what's true, actually, let's just tie it into the theme. If you're going to give yourself back to God, this is another way of saying giving yourself back to what's true, which is another way of saying giving yourself back to what's real. These are all the same thing, because this is fundamentally what we're looking for. We're looking for something real. The only place that reality, truth, God exists is in reality, right? Like if those things are real, they're going to be where life is real. And the only life that is real is here right now. Do you notice this? It's not complicated. There is here now, and then there is the world that you imagine of past, future, ideas, opinions, belief, mental content, and none of that is here right now. None of that you imagine has reality in reality. It exists in the realm of imagination. but yet we think about it as if it's real, right? We think about it as if it pertains to the reality of our lives, and it does not. Be still is a invitation, a doorway back to reality. Because again, if we're going to give ourselves to something real, if we're going to give ourselves back to God, we can only do that in reality. You can't give yourself to God tomorrow. You can't do it yesterday. Those are ideas. If you're going to give yourself to something real, you have to be in a space that's real. So, be still is the invitation that says, can we just stop chasing for a moment? Can we stop looking in the 10,000 thoughts? Can we realize that what we're looking for is not contained in the commotion of the mind? Can we be still? Let's start there. Open up. This is a beautiful invitation to just breathe. Breathe and make contact with that stillness. And granted, again, these are words, but I hope you sense the invitation behind those words. Open up. This is almost a question of, are you even willing? Are you even willing to see what's true? And this is an important question because so often we're not open. And the reason we're not open is because we're clinging to what we think we want, which is another product of imagination. So we're still not even present. Do you see this? Like, if you're afraid of not getting what you want, if you're afraid something doesn't work out, you can't be present. You can't see what's true because you're not here. You're off in the mind, clinging to this fantasy, hoping that there's a chance. But that's not reality. And again, if the intention is to give yourself to something that's true, to give yourself back to God, this is like, what are you worshiping here? Are you worshiping what's true? Are you showing up for what's true? Or are you worshiping your fantasy? Are you worshiping what you think you want? And in that worshiping of mental content, and again, we think it's something real, but it's just mental content. You're worshiping a story. There's no openness to see what's real. This is where you have to make a choice. What do you really want? And this is the beauty about the human journey, because we come into this experience and you're free to roam the world looking for prizes, only to find yourself right back where you started, where you discover it's all meaningless. We say, oh, if only I had this, if only I lived there, if only this person loved me, if only this would change. And you can run around trying to change all of that, but it doesn't get at the core of what you're really looking for. And to summarize in some way, using silly words, you're only looking for God, which is another way of saying you're only looking for the truth of what you are. But as you're running around in the world, you're running around in illusion. And this is something that I feel like I made really clear in the Monday Insight letter, which is the twist. And let me just point to this very briefly, because it's so fascinating. Can you see that the world you think exists out there doesn't actually exist out there? The world you think is out there is actually a world you create in the mind. You imagine it and then you project it out there. Have you heard the phrase that the world is illusion? That's what this is talking about. That what you think is the world out there is just you thinking about your thinking. But yet it looks like it's out there. But is it really? No, it's in your mind. It's an illusion, which is why it's ungraspable, which is why you can say, oh, if only I had $1 million, then I could relax. And then even if you get $1 million, you say, actually, I mean $2 million. And then you get 2. Actually, I mean 5. Because you had this idea that said, oh, if only I captured X, Y, Z, then I could be at peace. So I'm looking for X, Y, Z to give me peace. And I think X, Y, Z is something that's out there. But what is X, Y, Z other than the meaning that I give it? Does the X, Y, Z out there have any authority or power over me other than the authority and power that I give it? And where is that happening? In the imagination. Which is why these things in the world that we seem to capture don't sustain. They don't ever give you what it is you're really looking for. It's just experience. And it's very obvious. This is what's referred to as worshiping images. You're worshiping the mind's content, what you think is out there. You want that thing more than you want the truth of life, more than God. And for the one who has exhausted themselves running around the earth or running around wherever, trying to get this and trying to get that, and whether they get it or not doesn't seem to matter, they start questioning what the hell is going on. And this is where you get more sincere about what you're really looking for. And the conclusion, to summarize, what you find out is the only thing you're actually looking for in this life is God. The truth of what you are. The truth of life itself. That is the only prize. And so the more you see this, the more you let go of the things you think you want, and you become more open. And it's in the openness that life can begin to show you things that you didn't see. But in order to see these things that life wants to show you, you have to be where life is. You have to be open in the here and now. This is the great surrender. Surrendering everything that you think you want. Okay, after open up, what comes next? Fear less. I'm not saying the absolute elimination of fear. What I'm saying is, let's introduce less fear. Because, my goodness, what is your fear other than the fear of not getting what you think you want? Here's the thing, my friend. Fear is extraordinarily problematic. Not wrong, but problematic. It creates tension. It creates the opposite of everything you crave to experience. And there can only be fear if there is perceived separation from you and what you crave. Right? Something's missing. This fear assumes that you want something that is not here right now. This fear is clinging to illusions. This fear is confused about what you really want. And so in this path of be still, open up, fear less, love more, the fear less isn't something that you do. It's not an action. It's something that you open to after you are still. Fearing less is a natural byproduct of opening up, because opening up is loosening the grip on what you imagine that you want. In order to be still, there's almost a fundamental requirement to let go of some things. Right? There's a requirement to not be a slave to mental content to the degree that you can. This is why I love it. It's such a beautiful invitation. Can we be still? And maybe we can see just how much we're being pulled around by the mind's content, thinking that we're being pulled around by life. But life cannot pull you around. Only the mind pulls you around. And so the awareness of this, again, the ability to discern the difference between imagination and reality, is what gives you permission to be still, which leads to the opportunity to breathe and open up. And as you breathe and open up, you release the things you're holding on to, which means a natural byproduct is less things to fear. And what happens as fear begins to subside? As you start to realize, oh my goodness, I'm so afraid, but I don't really need to be afraid. What's that about? Do you notice that as fear subsides, you can breathe a little bit more naturally? You start to feel better. You start to see the vast array of illusions dancing around, and you say, oh my goodness, I think there's 10,000 things happening. There's not. There's only here right now. And what's the natural byproduct of less fear? More love. Again, the more love is not something that you do. You don't make more love happen. You become available for more love to flow by allowing the fear to become less. And the fear does not become less unless you are willing to open up to letting go of what you think you want. And you can't become open to letting go of what you think you want if you're not willing to be still. Which is interesting because as human beings, we think this journey is a journey of doing. Like we have to do something. We have to make something happen. Do you see that this sees yourself as separate from God? As if that which does everything isn't also doing you? This is the great illusion of yourself, the ego, that thinks it's separate from God and is trying to be its own God. And in its attempt to be its own God, it's so afraid of things not working out. And so it gets pulled around by its fear. I got to go fix this. I got to go fix that. But what about this? And what about that? What if I don't get this? What if I don't get that? As if you're separate from all those things that you think you want. Not realizing, once again, that the only thing you really want is to rest and remain in the heart of God. And it's in that space of abiding where life transforms and becomes something brand new. Life is not an opportunity to fix yourself. Life is not an opportunity to capture what you think is missing. Life is an opportunity to share this love that's just waiting to flow through you, which is also to say, this life is an opportunity to serve, to give your love to that which is real and true, to that which is worthwhile, to that which honors the sincerity of what you are and is not catering to the innocent fears about who you are. Naturally, what this speaks so directly to is a life of devotion. A life of genuine commitment. And why are we so scared of commitment and devotion? I might miss out on this. I might miss out on that. What if I want to do this? What if I want to do that? As you think there's 10,000 things out there. And maybe you need to go explore it. Maybe you're not ready for that devotion. Maybe you're not ready for that commitment. Maybe you have to go and see for yourself that there's nothing really out there. There's just you and the heart of God. And when you commit, whether you're committing yourself to another human being or you're committing yourself to a form of service in sharing love, what you realize is that this is my option. This is what's important. I'm not going to be distracted by that which is imaginary, by that which only speaks to my ego. And this, of course, is the value of devotional commitment. It tells me there's no room to be distracted by my ego. Because this is where my heart is. And is it easy? No. It's not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to challenge you. It's supposed to challenge your commitment, your devotion. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of that classic biblical story. Jesus is in the desert, hasn't eaten. And again, I don't know if it's true, but it's a great story. He's out there, he's tired, he's weary. And then the devil comes along and starts offering these temptations. Essentially saying, worship me and I'll give you what you want. Food. I'll make you important. I'll make you special. And yet, what does he do? He just goes back to the word of God. He just goes back to what he knows is true in his heart. Even though it seems like he has this opportunity to escape. But in order to escape, he has to give himself to something other than God. He has to trust something other than God. That's what the devil's doing. The devil's saying, worship me, which of course is what the ego is doing, is saying, worship me. Make this about what I want. Make this about me being important in the future. Make this about something other than the here and now. And my goodness, I can totally speak to this from experience. What a disaster it makes, not only in your inner world, but your outer world, when you are not able to honor such a devotional commitment and you find yourself pulled in 1,000 different directions, distracted by 1,000 different things, thinking that you're going somewhere, but ultimately you realize you went nowhere. Such is the beautiful learning. It's allowed. It's required. But in the learning, the important question is, have you not already learned this? Do you really need to learn it again? This is what I love about being so honest about our direct experience. To see that we've been here before. Again and again and again. It's like when you're committed to a heartfelt project, then there's this point of failure that comes up. And you're faced with the question of, do I learn from this and keep going? Or do I just give up? Because if I keep going, I might fail again. And I think that failure means something it doesn't mean. And it's causing fear, which is part of the point, inviting you to move through that fear. And I can't see that there is any worthwhile reward that, let's say, pertains to some flavor of personal growth that does not require a great difficulty in pressing on, even when it's hard. You know what doesn't help this is the social conclusion that says life is about being happy. That's even said in spiritual nonsense. That this life is about you being happy. No, this life is a grand adventure. And in every adventure, there's going to be difficulty because that's where you grow. And it's in our growth that we connect with the real prize, which is to see more of what's true, which is also to draw nearer to the heart of God. Don't think that that's going to be happy and easy. It's going to require you to get honest about things that you don't want to get honest about. It's going to require that you set your fears aside and move forward anyway because it's important. And you're not going to be happy. You're going to grow. There's something so much more valuable than happiness. And what is that other than real love? Real love does not say, I will love if I'm happy. That's not love. Real love says, I love regardless. There's something that happens in the spiritual journey, which is you touch upon something profound and you say, holy shit. Or something profound touches you. And this nature of something profound, even though you might not be able to articulate it, shows you something that's both extraordinary and deeply true. Deeply true about what you are, about what life is, and about what other people are, that surpasses any trinket that the world might give you. And you recognize this is what I want. And it's in those moments where there is a devotion being nurtured, where there is a gentle invitation whispered. Maybe it's the voice of God saying, come home. And maybe we're not ready. Maybe we still think there's something else out there. Or maybe spirituality just becomes a hobby. Maybe it becomes an outfit that we put on the weekends. Maybe it's not something that we've really given our lives to. And not to give our lives to spirituality as a concept, but to give our lives to that which spirituality points to. And for the one that says, I don't think I'm ready for that, I say that's perfect. Because when you're ready for it, you're ready for it. And even when you're ready for it, you'll see that you're probably terrified of it. Being ready for it isn't the absence of terror about it. Being ready for it is acknowledging that it's deeply true, even though it might scare the shit out of you. It's like making a really important decision in life. You don't make the important decision because there's no more fear. You make the important decision even if there is fear, because it's an important decision. You don't wait till you're happy about the decision. And when it comes time to make an important decision, which is also like saying, when you see something that's deeply real and true, it's not a question of how do I feel about it. It's a question of importance. My feelings don't tell me what's true. My emotions aren't responding to life. All those things are responding to my interpretations and my misunderstandings. It's kind of like saying that, oh, this is important, but it's difficult. And because it's difficult, I don't think I'm going to do it. Or this is important, but I'm feeling like I don't want to do it. Really, I'm scared. And because I have the feeling of scared, I'm going to use that feeling as reason to not do it. Which is almost just like saying you don't really see how important it is. Because that's where real transformation happens. Real transformation does not happen because you're no longer scared. It does not happen because you feel like transforming. Real transformation happens because you see there's no other option. You see that your direct experience shows you that if you choose not to transform, then your life is going to fall into a pit of despair. And you're not going to be who you are here to be. So you have a choice. And in that choice, to honor the opportunity that you have, you're going to be invited to let go of a lot of nonsense. A lot of things that you think you want. You know what? I was having this conversation with someone, and I'll end on this. Like, what do I love about the idea of being devoted to another human being in a relationship setting? Like, what do I love about the idea of being so absolutely committed to another human being? I'll tell you, it eliminates so many distractions in my life. It eliminates so many things I have to think about, especially as a man and I walk around. It allows me to focus on what's important. Because now in that commitment, in that devotion, it eliminates 1,000 other distractions. We assume that devotion and commitment takes away options. You know what it takes away? Is nonsense. Now you can focus on what's really important. That gives you a greater freedom than the assumption that it's eliminating freedom. And again, you only assume that it takes away your freedom if you think there's 10,000 things out there. But once you see that those 10,000 things aren't really 10,000 things, then devoting yourself is a much easier decision to make. You choose an avenue for your love to flow, and you let it flow there. You let it focus there. And the beauty in this is that because of the focus, because of the commitment, now you can go deep. You can experience that depth with another human being or another direction in your life because you're not distracted in 15 different directions. And the depth is where you find the real joy and aliveness of the human opportunity. There's no depth on the surface. To run around in 15 different directions, staying on the surface, is being afraid of that depth. And so we try and distract ourselves on the surface. And I'm just talking from my experience. And you get exhausted being distracted. And something in you says, God, I wish I could just focus. There's things that I really want to do. But I can't do them because I'm so distracted. And I want to go deep. Which again is also the invitation of worshiping God, right? Like rather than worshiping images, which are infinite, wanting 10,000 different things. No, I want one thing. And I want the one thing that's actually real. I want to go deep in what's real. That's what I want to do while I'm here. Because that's important. Any questions? Let's hang out here for a little bit and see if there's anything you guys want me to speak on. And then we'll wrap up with a guided meditation. That was a little bit intense. It's amazing that you guys stick around and listen to that. Listen to me talk to myself and tell me what I need to hear. Yes, I do have notes on this, but I can't share them on the platform that you're watching. Vanessa says, I just want to say say how grateful I am for being here today. I'm at the point of my life where I'm sitting in stillness and allowing to connect with what is true. That is a beautiful space. Martina asks, what advice do you give if I'm trying to let go of my doubts and let God guide the path? Well, it's an interesting question. What are you going to trust? Are you going to trust your doubts? Or are you going to trust God? What are you giving your life to? Are you giving your life to your doubts, which is the mind's content, which is worshiping images? And it's not a right or wrong because you'll learn in the process. But again, the question is, have you not already learned this? Be kind to yourself, but also be honest with yourself. Don't be kind to yourself in the way of comforting yourself with a lie, or comforting yourself with a fantasy, or comforting yourself with spiritual language. Comfort yourself with a space that allows you to be deeply honest with yourself. And maybe that honesty says, yes, I see what's true, but I'm scared. And maybe that's a point of asking God for strength, guidance. That doesn't mean necessarily to wait until it's easy. When I investigate my doubts, I ask, what are these doubts really about? What's the real issue here? Because we can totally bullshit ourselves. And what I see in my doubts is that I'm afraid of losing what I'm holding on to support my ego, rather than fully giving myself to God. Like my doubts are, I won't be able to hold on to this. You're right. It's like there's a part that wants to worship two masters. It doesn't work that way. My, my, my. Mm, mm, mm. All right, we're going to do a guided meditation. And we will call this Rested in the Heart of God. Even when there's flies buzzing around. Hey there. Can we hang out for a few? No rush, no hurry. And allow ourselves to just be here and rest in the heart of God. This doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't even have to be spiritual. We can just show up as we are. Let's take 3 deep breaths and just invite ourselves into this moment. Because surely the mind's going in 1,000 different directions from past to future. But let's allow the breath to give us permission to come home to right now. Let's breathe. No matter what you're going through, and I'm sure it might be something not pleasant, or maybe you're excited about something. Can we just, for a moment, let all that go? Just for a moment. How much can we just set that aside and just be here? It's an invitation, not a demand. Surely we'll be okay. Can I just be here with this fly buzzing around me? There's a fascinating thing that happens as we just give ourselves this little moment. As we lay down the burden or even lay down excitement about what we think might or might not happen. There's the opportunity to see a stillness, a presence that's untouched by everything I think is happening. The story of my life, the story of my troubles. There's this space right now that just holds me. It doesn't want anything from me. It doesn't judge me in any way. And the more I connect with this space, I do notice my breath becomes a little bit more natural, effortless. It's always a gift to see that everything I think is happening isn't really happening. And to also see how much I think that what I think is happening. How lost I can get in those thoughts. How afraid I can become in those thoughts. But as I come back to right now, in this space that we will just call the heart of God, I see just how okay, and I see just how whole and complete I really am. I can imagine myself missing something. But yet here, right now, especially with me and you, right now, you're not missing anything. If anything, you just have a thought about something missing. But what's real? To be human is to go on a great adventure in the imagination. We can imagine so many things and we can believe so many things. And yet, as we go on that adventure, we're held in this stillness the whole time. We are held in the heart of God. And yes, we forget that. And that's okay because we're still held. It's okay to forget it. But luckily, we can check in right now and see that we're okay. Thank you for meditating with me today. Oh, that was super sweet. Thanks for the donations, you guys. I see those coming in. Elizabeth, thank you. That'll buy me lunch. Amy, thank you. Got my coffee tomorrow morning. Alton, thanks, brother. Lenny, thank you. Christina, thank you. John, thank you. Man, I really appreciate this space that we create together. And you know what? Even though I doubt this sometimes, but I can't see myself stopping this work that I do. There seems to be some sort of devotional commitment to speak to these things. I don't know that it will, well, I know it won't always be in this format as far as on this day, at this time, on these platforms that you're watching on. But it happens in lots of other ways too. But this is clearly my great passion and love, to hold such a space and to just be radically honest and be open to see the miracle of what we all already are. This is the greatest gift. It is very much like sitting down with you on Christmas morning and opening that package that we'll call presents and seeing that it's everything you always wanted. Amen. All right, I am scheduled to be back next time at the same time on Tuesday. If you enjoy this space, tell your friends who might also enjoy it. If it grows, it's helpful for what I do. And I appreciate you. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.